Perfect. So today's session, which is part of our knowledge transfer and enterprise AI solutions series, is about our newest AI solution, BlueCallom COMPETE. So competition is all around us, and I mean, it never stops. New players, there's new technologies, and shifting customer expectations. It makes staying ahead quite difficult. And so the question poses, how can companies truly keep up? And this is where BlueCallom COMPETE changes this. Joining us today are two speakers who basically live and breathe AI and innovation. We have Axel Scholze, founder and CEO of BlueCallom. He has an extensive background as a serial entrepreneur and also pioneer in the tech industry, having founded and scaled multiple companies and also spent most of his professional life in Silicon Valley. Joining Axel is Christian Vee, VP of AI Solutions at BlueCallom. He has a strong background in chemistry and also nearly a decade in innovation management at Johnson & Johnson as Senior Director of Innovation. He now leads our product strategy, focusing on AI solution development. On this side, he's also founder and CEO of 𝐁𝐥𝐿 a biotech company dedicated to transforming cancer treatments through. So please also, throughout the session, feel free to interrupt or leave a comment in the chat at any time. We encourage this to be an interactive session. So is anyone letting the people in the meantime? Perfect. So a little introduction about BlueCallom. So we focus on enterprise AI solutions that go beyond what traditional software can deliver. So basically the foundation technology behind it, where we use prompt over codes, as well as our pay-per-use business model and approach to how it's implemented, make a big difference in how businesses operate. As I mentioned, Axel Scholze brings decades of experience from Silicon Valley, and having built several successful technology companies. And in just the first year, more than 100 medium to large enterprises have adopted our platform, and our AI community has grown past 100,000 members. Down below, you'll see a few familiar names, companies that we've already integrated BlueCallom's AI capabilities into their operations. Axel, the floor is yours.
All right. Okay, was there a question? No. Okay.
I'll answer the questions.
So allow me to, just to start with basically the foundation of BlueCallom. So we have a couple new people here, and it's kind of interesting and important to understand how we do things in general as a company, and that leads then to, in just a few minutes, to actually this new product, COMPETE. So we started originally with innovation. This was basically where we came from. Then we realized, based on questions and suggestions from customers or prospects, they came and said, well, this is super interesting, but we have currently very different problems. And the list of problems was big, and so we realized that there is nothing and nobody who is actually building an enterprise-grade platform. Now, since I've done this before, we were one of the first SaaS suppliers, also enterprise level in California. And so I thought, gosh, I mean, this is what the market really needs. And so there's this tagline where AI strategy finally meets execution is not from me. It's actually from ChatGPT. When we asked, so what is the shortest way to basically address what we're doing? And we liked it, so we put it up. There's lots of research that people spend millions in AI research, how to build a strategy. And I mean, the big consulting companies made actually billions from this first phase. Now, there was many, I mean, just recently, many arguments about that. And I think the most prominent was, I believe it was MIT saying, okay, 90% of strategies have not actually been grounded in any way or shape. There's no substance. And we said, okay, I mean, we agree that this is true, but we didn't quite agree with the reason, because when we look back, I mean, just sort of actually way before all we were in business, in the days when SAP started their company, there was no ERP system, there was no foundational system for enterprise-grade IT. It was all tools, it was vehicles, but nothing that put it all together. And so that learning actually drove us to say, well, this is the same with AI. I mean, AI is a profoundly different and new technology. This is not just a piece of you add on your old IT. That won't work. We realized that because we were very early on. And so what we're doing is we take this paradigm shift from conventional IT to basically AI, and this is how we're doing our job, so to speak. And so the horizon of what we're doing, where we are active in, is we built this platform that spans across departments, business units, countries, with theoretically unlimited number of employees and theoretically unlimited number of applications. That has never done before in AI. And the complexity has brought us, I mean, at least twice to a moment where I said, can we even do that? I mean, it's very complex because we're no longer move data from one user to another through a database. We're actually moving intelligence. I mean, maybe, how to say that, a virtual human, so to speak, through this network. And every agent, every intelligent prompt has activities, needs to do something, and the output is never the same. We know that. Some people argue this is the bad part of AI, yet others say, well, this is actually the good part because this is where the intelligence comes in. So this is a long story. I don't want to get into this today. Enterprise solutions like sales, R&D, and so on and so forth are basically sitting on top of this platform. And the third column we're standing on is our business model. We choose to not use as a SaaS, but we choose to use a model that it's called pay-per-use, or we call it even pay-per-gain. And so a company can put any user that they have on the platform, no cost. A significant change. The subscription cost killed most projects because it became too big, or they had special deals. But we said from the get-go, no. The same is on these applications, and you will see it in a second how it's organized. You can have anything that you want. Everything that we ever built and our partners ever built are basically instantly available. You don't have to license it. And as soon as that application or that system is used, then the pay-per-use kicks in. And so it's not that we don't make money. We make money from the usage and not from that you buy shelfware. So in this business model, we talked with a large vendor. They said, okay, this will break many companies. And I said, yeah, I mean, it's something that this is adaptable. You know, people can adapt it, but right now we're basically first. So, and when we talk about paradigm shift, and this is something also that is interesting to understand as concept when we talk about disrupt, transform, and today compete. We're moving basically to workflows instead of processes. And this sounds like this is the same, but a workflow, like the name already says, it flows. A process is very strict. You have to follow this process. You have to do it exactly like the process defined, and the software is written in accordance to the process that was defined. And when you want to change it, you also want to change, you need to change that software. And that is brutal, as we all know. If we need to change SAP or anybody needs to change it, this is a brutal process. Workflows, on the other hand, is very different because there's intelligence behind it. There's prompts and things that can be relatively easily changed. So mega shift. The next is we move basically from simple data to rich information. Also, I mean, data is gold and information, what is the difference? Data is, Tom Miller or Meyer in a city. And if you don't know the name exactly, then you're toast. When you want to forecast, you need the numbers. This is the revenue of this week, of next week, of the week after. And then you project your forecast. And I can go on and on and on. Information is, we made this amount of revenue and the projection is that. And we can see information context by the AI preparing this versus on data, you need to do it yourself. So, and I don't want to go through all of each and every one of these items. You see, there is a shift, and most of the words are very, very similar, yet the effect is brutally different. And this is what AI in the end is all about.
We have one question, Axel.
Yeah.
From Vladimir. So when it comes to client cost estimation, it's clear to me that it's pay-per-use, but do they have any costs related to integrating the solution into their system? And do we maybe have data on how much that costs them?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, every integration, every customization is a cost item. I mean, that's for sure. And there are no real numbers on cost. It can range from 10,000 or 5,000 or even 2,000 to, depending on the creativity of the company, can be almost infinite, right? So.
And one more question regarding this. Yeah. It's not just money. It is time.
Time and resources. Yeah.
Yes, time and resources. How do you have any experience how much they need to invest time and people to integrate the solution? This can be bottleneck.
Yeah. So absolutely. I mean, at the current stage, the customers we work with is typically I would say, I mean, it's a week of time to do certain things. The time of adaptation collapses. I mean, this is what I can say. And it has to do with two things come together. One is from the bottom up, things like data lakes and so on are very comfortable to access their data, or data warehouses that are very easy to access with interfaces and so on. So this is one pro coming from the old system side, and then the new system side. This is AI is super helpful because when it identifies, for instance, 3 names, one is misspelled and the other has everything the same but a different street address. The AI can recognize that and can realize, okay, this is most likely the same customer, and says, hey guys, is this the same customer? Yes, it is. And then basically cleans up the data. There is this end of garbage in, garbage out, because we're seeing and we're realizing it ourselves, and even on our own data, we realized it already, that the thing is very quickly with existing data, and we don't need to do data cleansing anymore. And that's a powerful shift for many companies. Yeah. Okay, so just the structure of BlueCallom real quick, because also this is something that plays a role in Compete. We have a manageable enterprise platform, and you see it on the left-hand side a little bit. There is a flow chart, an org chart of how the company can look like, departments, countries, and so on, business units. And you simply make a click here, add a new organization. You tell it if it's under this or above that or wherever you want to put it, and it puts it automatically and it's done. So this can be done by an administrator. A clever assistant can do that after maybe a couple hours of training. So the IT cost will be reduced. And the interesting thing is that stuff like this is what is most annoying to the IT team. And this can be done now, delegated actually to others. And this is not, has nothing to do with AI. This has only to do with architecture in this case. So we try to make it as simple as possible and measurable. Enterprise AI is another very big deal. People say, okay, these investments that some people talk about, and I mean, there are absurd discussions, I have to say, about cost. But how can I measure an ROI? How can I measure if the productivity everybody's talking about is really true? So we have a measurable enterprise AI solution, meaning what you see on the left-hand side. Every of these bullets represent basically either a solution. The smaller bullets, agents, and the little dots are actually individual prompts. And so what we do is that we have a base value for every single item. So a prompt, an agent, and a solution, and say, okay, the productivity is about this, because we simply looked at what's typically used for each of these steps in time. And then the users have, in addition to that, the ability to override it and say, oh, I would have typically used, 3 hours or a week, or whatever the time consumption is. And so we see the split here, but it also shows basically not that it goes up. What we show is actually on the right hand, on the axis to the right, the overall usage. So everything which is on the right is used more than everything which is on the left. Everything is up is more productive than what is below. Now an IT manager can find out, okay, what is used and how often is it used, and how the people like it. So we have the star concept. I mean, give it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars, and a 1 star is a dark red, and a 5 star is a light blue, and everything in between. So this is our own chart. So a lot of these things are sometimes even just test objects that we use over and over and over again, but they have no ratings, and therefore they're great. So and this is the last part about the technology, the backend. Comply, which sits here in the middle, is one of several enterprise solutions that we're offering. And they sit on top of the so-called agentic spine, so they can even talk to each other. And agentic spine, or the spine, came actually from, we looked at how the brain is actually coordinating our body, and everything goes through our backbone from a nervous system point of view. And we didn't want to use orchestrator, because orchestrator is almost kind of back to the old world, a very rigid system, a very straightforward, almost linear system. And the spine actually runs multiple, hundreds, if not tens of thousands of activities at the same time. Okay, so this is basically where it's built on. So when people say, I can do this with ChatGPT, what you guys are doing, absolutely. You can do almost everything with ChatGPT. But the question is, if you have a multi-agent system that has more or less the equivalent of hundreds of prompts, well, you can write them and you can connect them and you can run it, but then it's always you and ChatGPT. So it's a one-to-one relationship. While this, what we build, this was a rule, must be for enterprises. So multiple people are working within one process. And you will see this even compete, which is a powerful tool, but also there's multiple people are involved in the execution. Okay, so let's talk about compete. So works at night and you can execute the next day. So this is a very provocative statement, because when you compete, in a market, you mostly have a research company or your marketing team does the research, and you get maybe quarterly reports of market trends and what have you. And we get it now overnight, I mean, literally. And we let the system run at night because simply has to do with cost, but it also has to do with AI utilization. And that's an extra, very special topic, AI utilization, where we learned a lot from AI. But when it runs at night, then next morning we can actually put a report on the desk of the CEO every day or every week, or whatever they choose, doesn't matter. So, and when we run something like that, imagine that you can research your market, your customer behavior, your technology advantages or technology advancements in the market, shifts, trends, customer sentiments or sentiments in the market in general, and any move basically your competitor does. And you get this daily. I mean, there was a moment where I thought, are we doing the right thing? I mean, this is as brutal as it can get, because somebody who's using a system like that has AI, I mean, a permanent intelligence in its basically strategic office, who controls the market every day. This is impossible to do this today. I mean, research institutes can do this, and they come back, and I mean, we used it ourselves in the past. I mean, if we do this once a year, then and we pay $20,000 to $50,000 or whatever currency, well, we were astounded what came out. But a quarter later, it's already not accurate anymore, and half year later, nobody looks at it. Now you can do this quarterly, then it's $20,000 to $50,000 or $100,000 quarterly, and the cost is just prohibitive. So if we do that, and we did that, that was the first step. Well, let's do this with AI. But then we said, okay, can it also, I mean, when we do this, we know it can create tactics, it can create measures to how to deal with it, interact with R&D, marketing, sales, service, financing, all the departments. And when it has the overview and says, okay, this is what R&D should do, this is what marketing should do, and it's just not always big things like, be innovative or create a new competitive product. This may be the case, but it may be, fix this or, fix that. The market needs that. This can be tiny little things. And this is where we came from, originally quarterly to monthly. And then we said, you know what, weekly would be good, because what this thing does is I mean, just little activities. And the other thing that is always, I mean, excited me personally, when this thing does something, when an AI does something, it has good suggestions at the end. And it has, with, since 4.01, actually, it has reasoning, and it tells you why this is good. And it tells you actually why, whatever we did this prompt over code model, where we were not sure whether this is actually the right way to go. But it explained us why this is, I mean, a strategic move that we should have on the top line on the executive level always. So, okay, cool, we did something right. And so when it produces these tactics and measurements on a weekly or daily basis, obviously this cannot be every day something super significant. I would say even fortunately, because we would not be able to catch up with everything that they come up with. And if it doesn't find anything significant, it says, okay, you're all good, nothing today. Okay, good. And then the CEO, who is basically the receiver of this report in the morning, will decide whether this is all good and distributes it to its team, which is R&D and marketing and sales and so on and so forth. And they get specific to their team in their company with strategy in mind, activities and suggestions they should do, and even how they should do it. So then the team provides feedback back to Compete, and so it can learn. So this feature, I have to say, is not quite ready yet, but it's apparent that we do something like that. We will basically teach it to understand the feedback that's coming. This was hard to understand, or this was a little bit overdone, or this was a little bit underestimated or overestimated, and so on and so forth. And it will take probably a year until this is perfectly tuned to the company strategy, to the market, and so forth. Now, the trouble comes again into this is if you do this, let's say today, for the next 12 months, and somebody else says, okay, I want this too. Well, their learning will also take another 12 months, where you are 12 months ahead, plus the 12 months that it learns and improves and so on. So it will be a tough game, and we don't know exactly how it will pan out. But one thing, and we did several test cases, was interesting that even with, head-to-head competitors, the strategies it basically formulated based on the vision of the company, based on the strategy, and based on the what is it called, the constitution of the business. Like BMW against Mercedes. BMW is sort of more the sportive and so on company. Mercedes more the serious, more elite car or whatever. And when we let the system run, we see that with every step, it tries to fulfill actually the strategy and the direction of the company versus copying everything that BMW is doing. And that was an interesting learning for us, saying, okay, this actually helps to maintain and even harden, so to speak, the constitution of the company, rather than making it a follower of somebody else. So when we compete against AI, that means competition is on a 24/7, 365 run. Starts 2 a.m. at night, and with deep research, we get all the results, and then at the 7 in the morning, people can start. And so we're not only competing against a company any longer, well, we also compete against an AI system within that company. Now, there are two interesting learnings also for us. We realized when somebody does this intensely, that company will not think about letting people go. And this is the term that we started to really think about. If we utilize AI to perfection, then we utilize this obviously with human people. And humans will leverage the system as good as they can, which means there is no room for letting people go. This thing is so fast and so intense that we will use what we have in order to catch up or stay ahead of the curve. And that's an interesting aspect that we've never thought about in the past. And AI utilization comes in many flavors, so I don't want to go in all of them, but particularly here in the competition, it became very apparent that we need the people to actually drive the competition, a notch higher and higher and higher to execute whatever opportunities we have. So CMO and CEO are basically the people who are the reviewer, and then they delegate. And delegation means, okay, there's troops who theoretically would be overwhelmed if they get every single day new aspects of improving the company. But those companies who have, an AI approach anyway, and basically think about, okay, we can reduce the teams. Well, they realize, well, reduce hard to do, because we need the teams for competition. And if you want to be a market leader, well, we need to fight, and that means feet on the street is still the #1 parameter to do that. So competing manually with a backing of quarterly researches and so on, I would say no chance. And honestly, we had this crazy idea. Let's try it with BlueCallom, and let's try to use SAP as a competitor. I mean, obviously, we're a 20 people startup. It's this giant, this is a joke. But when I read the reports, and I think, gosh, is this really a joke, or is this doable? And probably not overnight. This is clear. But over the next 5 years, there are opportunities that are really, really interesting, and reasons. And this is the nice thing about AI, reasons why we actually have that chance, and reasons why SAP would have to have a very hard time to compete. Today, completely unimaginable. I'm a visionary, and I'm always a little bit ahead of the curve, but I was stunned what the results were. So this is basically the essence of Compete. And just real quick about how we bring it to market. We provide leadership workshops because we need the leadership understand the power of AI, not from a technical point of view. This is IT, CIO, or whatever, but the opportunities that AI as a new mechanism, technology, existence has. If a CEO understands that, then they come to very different conclusions, like compared to a sales manager, a team manager of an R&D team, the IT department, and so on and so forth. And the most companies that we won basically because we worked with a CEO in a way that also we learned what is their biggest problem. And oftentimes it's like, it's almost too big to bear. And then we say, well, okay, maybe we can do this or that. And then we find our ways through together. We're not the domain experts in all these cases, but we know how to deal with this type of product. And so the last sentence I want to just share is, do more with what you have. This became, at least internally, so sort of a term that we're using more often, and realizing that in the end, probably people or companies would not let hundreds or thousands of people go because of AI. They would actually keep them, and in some cases even add people to it, because when they realize what they can do with AI, they want to do more with that. And more means, in the beginning, the people that we would have let go, we keep. But then on the other side, when you see more and more opportunities, you will probably even grow your team. And so we extended this term, do more with what you have, and then dash and scale. And so, the proof is in the pudding, very clearly. We're at a stage where we can say, yeah, we see this at every company. But there is a trend and kind of a thinking that this will probably be the more likely case than that we have, millions of people on the street because they were fired because they didn't do what they should do or didn't use AI. Don't use AI is indeed a risk, but if you leverage it, it's like every tool. If we leverage the tools that we have, we're better off. Okay. with that said, we thought that, I mean, Christian is deeply involved, or as deep as I am, and so maybe we do a little bit of a dialogue, a chat. We could do this. We just start, and you guys chime in with questions, with thoughts, with whatever you have on your plate, so to speak, to fuel the conversation.
Vladimir has another comment and question. Please feel free also to just unmute yourself and
just unmute yourself and chime in, and yeah.
Sorry for asking so many questions. I'm so interested in this product because it's really great idea, and overall I know how can be painful for people. When you mentioned that actually you can do this with ChatGPT, but everybody who work with ChatGPT or any kind of LLMs knows how that is really hard to organize inside and remember things, and in the end to have something from that actually can use. I think that actually BlueCallom solve this with solution. You spoke about giving some reports, of course, that actually CEOs can using. And my question is, does this mean that actually when companies start to use Compete, actually will have, I can say, less accurate data, and over time, because data will come, they will have more, I can say, reliable data? And can we see, can clients see in a Compete, like from which resources Compete pull the data? Because probably how I understand it, that actually Compete go to on the internet, find the resources from the competition, collect data from the company, reasoning it, and give us some kind of report.
Correct.
And how, maybe question can be by clients, how I know that actually these data from the internet are reliable, and can we see the source from which data came?
Yeah. So both is a yes. So, I mean, reliability, and this is something we should take in consideration in general. The reliability of information in a grand scheme of things is definitely not, I mean, I repeat this, not what we expect from like a calculator. You know, when I take my calculator and I type in 5 + 5, it's always 10, no matter how often I do that. If I ask certain questions about the market, then the LLM on one side, but also the research that the system actually does may vary, because there is so much data out there on this planet that it will not always take or even find the same data again. And so the variance of the returning feedback of the results of a request may vary, and even if you ask it 10 times one after the other, you may actually get 10 times a different result. You may not, but the difference in results, and this is what we have to how to say that, have to adopt, is, relatively speaking, tiny compared to the mistakes we may do as a human when we have 10 humans say, okay, Google this, find out, read all the research, and then come back with a result. All 10 will have different results, but some might be actually error prone, and some vary, and some are really good, relatively speaking, but also we won't be able to make it accurate. Accuracy in, and this goes through all and everything in agentic or generative AI, accuracy is not the word that we can probably, at least for a long time, fulfill. And there were discussions, I think it was 2 months ago, what if we would have finally the real powerful quantum computers? And quantum computers could, calculate through things, 100 billion, million, trillion times faster than a regular computer. And so it could be better. But also we know that quantum computers are still not 100% accurate, because what's happening is, if you go into quantum physics, there's reasons for it. And I think in general, when we look into the universe, there are things that are just always a little bit unpredictable. I mean, there's this, what is it called? 3I Atlas meteorite coming, close to us, and all kinds of stories, between we're all going to die to, it passes by 230 million kilometers from Earth, no worries. And even the 230 million kilometers can be, vary. And so I think with the number of data, we have this curve, and that's also logarithmic, that errors come in with a higher and higher and higher probability until the probability is infinite big, but this doesn't mean that everything is wrong.
Mhm.
And so this is it's a little bit off the grid yet, but it's something I think we all need to agree that we will not be able to do that, being super precise.
Yeah, but actually, when you got report, you can just like Perplexity, just tell the sources from which you pull it. Somebody, it's always human in loop, and then somebody can decide, is this good or not.
So we're using OpenAI, and we're using OpenAI Deep Research, and Deep Research returns all the sources and so on. And we also we found a case where the source were wrong. The email, the URL did not work. I think, it was wrong. But
I think, Axel, in that context, it's also important to understand, I think with the stronger emphasis on AI, the skill of asking strategic and critical questions becomes much more important. Because if we ask very broad, simplistic questions, that will be reflected in the answer. So when we work on our products, especially with the engineering team, our focus is really asking questions that emphasize, in a way, creativity and strategic thinking to recall the ability from the system into the answers. And I think in the very beginning, when I started working with you and the team, I was bringing in that book about the requirements in the age of AI to ask these questions. And in a way, I think that also will then differentiate successful people who are learning in school throughout their careers to ask critical questions. And I think that will be a big differentiator going forward, to then get the answers that are relevant and as precise and correct, coming back to the question, that are meaningful for the company.
Yeah. Stefan, you had a raised arm.
Sorry, I was on mute. I have, first of all, I'm very convinced about what you do, about the solution. I heard you, by the way, in a presentation about 2 months ago. So this was actually when I started. Two points that you mentioned them. You mentioned them today again. One is that data cleansing is no longer possible. You even went that far in that presentation when you said, when a CIO tells you, we have a clear idea of what AI should do for us, the red flags are raising. That's one question. The other one is processes versus workflows, which I like very much. But coming to my question, what is the ideal customer from a size perspective? And it's more like enterprise like than small and medium companies. And the other question is, and you already touched upon that before, it's not so much a technical people, not the CIO organization, but more the business guys or the CXO level that this should be convinced about this approach, right?
Yeah. I mean, from a size point of view, we said, okay, we're looking at companies that are between 500 to 10,000 employees, somewhere in that range. And we didn't make it infinite because enterprises in the size of 100,000 plus employees, they have their own inner clock, so to speak, which is much slower than we want to go. And so we don't want to entertain them with everything we do. But in that 500 to 5,000 or 10,000 employees, that's a good size. These are people who are either making already or made already the decision to leverage AI, and in this case, go with a competition instrument like that, relatively, how to say that? I think that the German term would be beherzt. I say, yes, we need to do that. Let's go together. People who know that we're all in the very early stage. I mean, even though, I mean, it's now, what is it, 2 years old, 3 years old, the ChatGPT, but we're so early relative to anything else in the technology that this is a way that we want to go together.
Okay, thank you.
Christian?
Actually, I have 2 questions. I remember that on your website you have a price tag for COMPETE. Is this for a single use for a flight, or is this kind of for a certain period?
This price is actually for a certain period. Yeah, I have to check it myself, but I believe this was sort of a monthly rate, something like that. Actually, no, it was the pilot. It was the pilot program. So that comes with all the trainings and management programs and so on to get going.
I mean, I remember a little bit. It was in the range of, let's say, 40,000 euro. Is this now, yeah, for the pilot? So you are basically guiding the customer into this product. But is this then the cost for a month, a quarter, a year, independently how often I'm going to run the product?
Yeah, so I have to say I mean, initially we thought the runtime may be basically something like, we don't know exactly. I mean, currently we're looking at about 1,000 euro per run. I mean, that's just the research. So if they would run it 200 work days, so that would be 200,000 a year. But we also see for smaller companies, they would probably not even need it on a daily basis. I mean, they would be completely cool with once a week, so that would be 50,000 a year. And but we're still experimenting, and the experimentation is basically the cost that these deep research costs. The most expensive part of the product is obviously the deep research, which is everything that makes the product. But that's at least the range that we're looking at. And the best case would be, and this is something what we're probably announcing this week, and I need actually also a Christian for that. As soon as we have very good average numbers of runtime cost with the different models. I mean, for those who are involved a little bit into in the AI space in more detail. So we have two versions of deep research. One is O4 Mini, I believe, and the other is O3. And O4 Mini is a basically, I mean, it's 20% of the cost that we run for O3. We did, however, already experimentation also for another project. This had nothing to do with COMPETE, where we said, well, the results are just not sufficient. And so the results quality is probably what cost. And if somebody runs a product like this, they want, I mean, the best of the best in order to catch everything possible and then be sure that this is running fine. So I would say it's in this range of let's say 50,000 on the low end and $1 million on the high end for a company for an annual permanent cost. Yeah.
All right.
Andreas?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I have a question to the implementation. How does a customer actually need to prepare to run COMPETE? Do they need to define certain very specific questions, as Christian before said? Do they need to define the competitors they want to observe? How is the process actually?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and this goes to what Christian said. The better we tell the system what it's supposed to do, the better it works. And so in this case, we feed the AI basically with the company background at a whole. Then the strategy that the company has, we want to become this and do this and achieve this and so forth. This number one competitor they have, the one that they are fearing most. And we realized if we have that one company, very specific, the results are better than if we give them a list of companies. And this has a lot to do with how the LLM work these days. Then we tell it, I think there's 3-4 things that we tell them, and then we help, and this is what we do in this pilot program. We help the company understand how to actually craft these answers or this content, and it's so, I mean, it's so sensitive that we learn this every time from almost new, is when we don't do this precisely, well, obviously the system uses any free rule it can find, and finds all kinds of things. While when we're very precise, then we limit the search, and it goes through basically the channels we decide. So, for instance, we have, and this is part of deep research. We can tell them that there are certain sources that are accessible, and if they find the sources, they use it. If they don't find it, they tell, we don't have license or whatever. And so also here, it's important to give them rather less than more, because the less it is, the deeper it goes in these research organizations. And this is one of the things what made OpenAI superior to Perplexity, which was actually known as the number one in research. What OpenAI did, as right or wrong, I mean, the big elephant, they purchased all these licenses to all these dedicated research companies where they can access it for medical and for whatever things that are not publicly available, and so we benefit from that power in OpenAI.
Axel, a question to this, because as your partners are in charge of already consulting the customer, do you plan to issue kind of guideline which we can work, to prepare together with the customer what they have really, to be prepared to have which information they have to really to fill in the solution?
Yes and no. So one is obviously we have these fields and we explain it, but what we do in the, as you know, in the partner trainings and programs, basically kind of help to teach the background thinking. So if we try to make it sort of a cookie cutter model, then we will fail, because every company is different and we need to find the differences, and so we help partners to do that, of course. Yeah. Yeah, Vladimir.
I was muted. Regarding security side, client or do clients have concerns about, like, I don't know, leaking data or anything else when they just integrate solution in their system and work on it? How you solve this type of question? Or
yeah, so we have an entire document. We have it on one slide somewhere. I don't have it here, but what we do from a regulatory compliance point of view, from classical security, and we made one move that we haven't announced yet, but in this group, it's no problem to say so. So actually, it was, I think on one of the slides, it was already shown. I just realized that here on the lower left-hand side, you see Oracle. So we moved away from Google because it was very difficult to work with Google. I mean, it's still an advertising company. And so we work with Oracle, which is, I mean, it's amazing to work with. And so they have very different approaches to security and very different measures and very different back-end solutions. So it's just, I mean, we had no idea how deep they go on the security side. So then we use that, and they have a data lake and data. We don't call it data warehouse. There's a different term. So which is part actually of their cloud strategy. So which means a company can put data into that data lake that is managed basically by Oracle and not accessible to anybody else. And so then we get access to that data lake based on the ruling that the customer is defining. So it's also a huge advantage for us, and this was one of the reasons why we moved. So we can basically, we can deal like in the past with any data lake, but if there is one that is standard to us, obviously the investment and the ability to make special activities, interfaces to that data lake is obviously much greater, and it's a big deal for us. But yeah, I mean, that question pops, I mean, with 100% certainty on every account. They want to know exactly what we do and how we do it, and that's fair. I mean, we're actually happy because we also learn if we don't do something that somebody comes up with, we can assess and say, hey, yeah, it's cool if we would do that, and then we see how we make it.
Thanks.
Hello, Zeta.
Yes, hi Axel. I have a question. When you run Compete, this is done exclusively on public data. I mean, data information available on the internet, or also, do you connect to the company, the enterprise data? Do you have an approach that you used?
Okay, when you say enterprise data, sort of the company who runs Compete, that we access their internal data.
Yes.
We don't do that right now. It's an interesting question. I mean, we never had a request yet, but also the lifetime of Compete is basically 6 or 8 weeks now, and so I mean, right now, actually, everybody was happy that we don't need their data to actually perform at best quality.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other question or suggestion or? If not right now, then I don't know. Christian, Lee, do you want to chime in?
So at the moment he's not in. I think he had an issue with electricity, but
Okay.
I actually have another question. Is there already an official use case where we could see some results of the when Compete was running?
Well, yes and no. So obviously we discussed this a couple of days ago whether we want to share our own, and so we decided, yeah, why not? So we will do that. So you can see how it looks like and what's the content and the structure and so on and so forth. Obviously, we cannot share this from other companies, but and we have only one who is actually using it right now.
Okay, thank you.
So I mean, this is, as you know, so to speak, a brand new baby. So
well, I think it's also very individual. So I think you have to absolutely try it at one point and see what happens and make a pilot and then you go from there.
I mean, what we did in the early tests, we took all kinds of companies and put in their data and I mean, theoretically we can go onto the market and look for, excuse me, for an annual report, what the strategy is and what they want to do and where they're weak, and then we put it in. There is, on this left chart, there's a couple of the things of the modules that are in. I mean, this is mid-journey, but one is a SWOT analysis. We actually put it out for now because it confused the spirit of competition more than it helped, interestingly enough. But we'll put it back into the next generation where we actually start almost with a separate strings of agents, do a SWOT analysis, do all the kind of things that you run, put the strategy of the company in, and then run it, and then actually ask the company if they want to keep their strategy, because what we found in many cases is that the strategy was kind of a dream that they had, never fulfilled, rather than something, this is where we go and this is where we go. And so when we have weak strategies, then obviously the results are weak because we look for that strategic match that probably is not even executed. So we do that, but the current version is actually pretty robust. We did it. We put some of the companies we know. We took Mercedes and BMW and did it also crosswise. So now we started with when Mercedes does it, how do they compete with BMW, and then how it's BMW, how do we compete with Mercedes? We did it with Porsche and Ferrari. We did it with some sailboat manufacturers, and whatever came to mind, we try to look at it from a perspective so that we also know the companies well enough to judge the results. And it was, I mean, honestly, it was amazing. I mean, what it came back with, and it's very, very strategic. So if it follows a strategy, and this is something in the very beginning, we had a very how to say that, a very intense strategic fellowship sort of put into the design. It was almost too much, so we lowered it a little bit. And this is something probably also in the next 12 months we will learn from customers, where they see things that are not a match to what they expected. And so we don't have said it yet, but we want to provide sort of an, how to say, it's not a guarantee, but if something goes wrong, I mean, we're more than happy to just fix it and run it again at no cost. So so the learning is on our side, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, one more question. I just come to my mind, if I can. If I understood, when client used some project from BlueCallom, like for example COMPETE, actually they got some results. Probably they use maybe, I don't know, disrupt. Then actually, if they collect, do we have automatically that actually use the data from COMPETE in disrupt, for example? Or agents do this alone, like by decision, or somebody need to manual then just pull it out and then put in disrupt or something like that, because it's always many data are inside, and actually I'm just curious.
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and the answer is unfortunately not yet, to be honest. Let me just go back. So basically here we have all these different solutions, and they sit on this so-called agentic spine. And so we control and manage a lot of things even between them, but we're not at the stage where we can say, for instance, the output of disrupt should be the input for transform. And then when you run transform and you go to market, there is a new product that is coming. No, it's already there. Launch, then you launch it. So that would be, that is the idea. And the agents, we have developed this agent-to-agent protocol can do that, but what we didn't have yet, or we don't have yet, internally we talk about plugs. We want plugs where a disrupt can interface with each and any of the others, and that is not yet developed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other question, suggestion? I mean, in terms of the go-to-market, we'll probably today or latest by Thursday send out the press release for COMPETE. We'll share it with all of you if you're interested. Definitely all our partners. And for those who are not partner from us, I mean, probably the majority right now, we're working with business partners that help implementing our vision. My vision is to build the best products in the world. But if we do this and everything alone, this is just not possible. So we work with partners in different regions, different countries, and growing. And so the press release, as I said, will be available to all of you, and feel free to, we'll give you some guidance with it. Feel free to use it yourself with your press connections, putting yourself into the scene, so to speak, because I believe this will have a pretty nice impact on on what we were doing. Okay, and in terms of implementation, maybe this was a word question. So I want to go back to this pilot program. What we realized is that it's hard to make a decision, particularly on this pay-per-use side, where it feels like, okay, I don't know how much it will cost, and it will just run and then cost more and more and more. And for people who are used to have budgets, they're very precise, very sharp, and within that budget you have, X amount of money, and that's it. We are also able to make fixed priced versions, and fixed price means, okay, you can run this for one run, for instance, or 10, or however often you want to have it run, when you don't run it 24/7. And so the budgeting is much easier with that. We show the cost in coins. I mean, everything runs in coins, because we have, when we go deeper and deeper, we would actually have to charge micropayments and so on. So we show the coin consumption of every application, also of Compete. And so somebody would see what the consumption was, and let's say you pay 5,000 a month or whatever, and it costs only 3,900, then you will most likely say, okay, next month we want to switch, and you can switch then anytime. So we obviously don't return the money, not because we said no. we want to penalize somebody, but the cost is the fixed cost is a risk. Also for us, if somebody exceeds it, we wouldn't also come back and say, now you have to pay more. And so this must be the understanding. But people would, with I would say 90% probability, pay more with a fixed price. And so and we tell this people, I mean, we don't want to mess around with that. But if they then realize, okay, this is continuously below price, then they can switch to pay-per-use, and they get a feel for it, how much it is and why it is that much, because they see it for every step in the process. How much was this and how much was that? So the pilot program, however, this is a fixed price package where the runtime is actually just a smaller part. And in the pilot program, we help companies to get a full comprehension of the impact of agentic AI in enterprises. And like I said initially this morning, when we have a chance to talk to a C-level person, they simply think differently. I mean, if you have 5 executives, definitely on eye level, but almost the same level. One is IT, one is sales, one is marketing, one is finance, and so on and so forth. So they're there because they're specialists in their arena, and they have a perspective from their point of view. And the CEO typically is the only one person in the company who oversees everything. I mean, this is what they get paid for, and their perspective is profoundly different, particularly when it comes to something radically new like AI is. And once we have a chance to have almost an easy conversation, we typically present some basically foundational situations, some basic understanding, and then have a conversation. Literally conversation. The whole relationship changes, because they begin to understand, well, if they can do that, and they can always, can you do also this? And this, when you can do this, then can you also do this? We realize, okay, this is what's on top of their head or mind, and then we can respond to it. And we would I mean, NITO and partners here would just encourage to do this too. If we can do, say so. I mean, absolutely. It would be devastating if we mess around with these guys. And so when they realize, okay, we can do this and this, then they can build a strategy for AI, not after weeks of consulting services. They do this on the spot. This is a CEO's ability, and I see this all my life over and over again. And this is why we're so focused on these meetings, because again, these guys have a perspective across the entire company. Maybe not in the details, also not necessary. They know what their leadership team can do and what not. And then they can create basically a concept within 48 hours. And if we come to that point, then we win. And this is basically where we've won almost all the deals that we have on that basis. And this is just a suggestion for everybody, even inside a company. Pull these guys in. They're interested. There's no company where the CEO is not interested in AI. They're fearful that they don't know enough. They have all their other issues in their day-to-day life, so it's not that they have endless time for it. But once they understand that they need to understand the impact, they need to understand what to expect, they need to understand what to expect from the people they have. If that's a goal, then it's a goal for AI. And so, the pilot program is exactly cut for that. So there's an executive program where we have individual one-to-one with CEOs, and or with their leadership team, the entire board or whatever. And then the team of the project manager who will run it need to be educated how it works, and also here has nothing to do with the technology. I mean, the technology is simple, but it has to do with understanding that the question, and I think it was Einstein who said, in the right questions is half of the answer. And that's so true. And if you maneuver the question right, and this is what prompt engineers, the good ones, do. They sit there and think about every single prompt. How do I phrase it? How do I cut it? How do I massage it? And if this is well done, boom, you're at the answer. So if the team understands that this is one of the criticalities, then they also understand, okay, when I feed the system with data, I need to think through that. And if I don't, then then we have a different form of garbage in, garbage out.
And that's really an important point, Axel, you're raising here, to have the two topics clearly separated when you're going into a pilot program. One is the technology, and there you should talk with technology people and answer their questions and make them familiar with what BlueCallom can do and what AI can do in general. But I think Andreas is on the call as well. We have seen in meetings when suddenly the CEO is hijacked by his IT department for AI questions, and they lose control on what is my strategic need. Like, for example, operational excellence, also a topic I believe with Compete you will be able to address, as you will get real-time insights where the competition is going, and you connect across sales, R&D, operations, and you synchronize your actions against your competitors. And these are things CEOs tend to forget when the IT department is in the room, and they at times believe they can shift the responsibility and accountability to IT to implement AI in the company. But it's really beyond and far beyond the point of a tool. It's really understanding the strategic opportunities coming with it. And that's a CEO question. And as Chiara mentioned early on, I come originally from the pharma space, and when you read what some of the CEOs, like the guy from Sanofi, are openly stating, they are clearly saying it's a paradigm for the CEO to make sure that we have a proper AI strategy. So really, when you have these discussions, make sure going in the pilot to separate the two things, and you don't delegate the AI revolution to the technical people.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. Cool. Thank you.
Maybe something, I don't know if Andreas is still there, maybe he can, from his perspective, allude on that piece as well, how he experienced that in that moment. Or if you have something else.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Andreas.
All right. Thank you, Christian. Well, I totally agree what you have told, and maybe I can say a couple more words. I mean, in the beginning, we talked to the CEO, and he was very interested and was looking actually in the healthcare business for some efficiency improvements as they were to make certain changes. And then actually the CEO said, well, but my technical people also have to understand and they have to be on board, which is totally correct, of course. And he delegated actually the task to them. And for the following meeting, then when Christian actually took part, the CEO was not present anymore. And then actually the technical guy, he kind of really was so much deep in details that we were kind of lost. I mean, we tried actually to get the conversation back to the actual goal, and I said, well, you know, that's very nice and all the details very interesting, but in the end, our goal is to improve the efficiency with AI. And in the end, they all agreed, but he showed us his prompt and how he programmed it, and obviously these prompts were it looked like they were very old, but he was convinced that this is comparable. And I think in these conversations, we really need to go a step back and go to a higher level and you know, get these guys on board when we're talking about implementation, and then we can go into details. But yeah, we've learned a lot.
We've learned, yeah. And in the specific case, I think the specific case is also closing on something Axel said in the beginning, that it's not actually about losing jobs. In the specific case, it was really about managing the workload, because it's an area where talent and people are rare sources. Everybody talks about these specific specialists, which we have not abundant currently. And there, the idea was to really make the operations capable to grow with the resources they have, because they are not more in the market. And there's also another customer, you have seen the name on the previous slides as a company we've been working with. Their key challenge is to get the people to execute their strategies, and their AI will be an enabler to execute with the current talent pool the demands of a growing enterprise. So I think what Axel said there in the beginning is also spot on. It's not about reducing workload or reducing workforce. It's really executing strategies focused on growth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right on. Cool. Chiara, do you want to take over or back?
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you very much for everyone's very insightful inputs. I think many questions were answered, and we learned a lot about our brand new solution, Compete. I just wanted to close the session by mentioning a few upcoming events we're having. We have 2 more webinars this year. One also about one of our solutions, Sales Ties, which is really from beginning to end in the sales process. So from lead generation to order confirmation. This takes place on the 11th of November. And then to close this year, we have a 2026 outlook. So where we'll basically do a quick recap of what has happened this year, and then Axel will also give his outlook on the next year. And then for anyone who is around Zurich, we're going to be participating at the OpenAI conference on the 27th of November. And we're very happy to provide you with a discount codes for your tickets. Yes.
Okay, yeah, on sales ties, maybe one word, because I mentioned the term AI utilization in the beginning, where I said this is sort of currently my new hobby. When we tested sales ties, which is sort of the sales management tool, what we do real quick, I mean, that's a little bit of preview of what's coming. We generate leads with AI. We use the same tools, deep research and so on, for generate leads. And when we generate leads, that means this is not an address and a phone number and a person to talk to. This is basically a 2-page summary, an assessment of the company that we want to work with. And also sales ties works overnight, so between 2 and 4 a.m. it generates leads, and sort of then salespeople get it on their desk. They can review, follow up, maybe customize the introductory email further that is suggested by the AI, and so on and so forth. So when we started it, and Yannick, our sales manager, started to use it, we realized, okay, we're producing about 10, I think it was 10 leads per night that he can work with amongst his other sales duties, and the next day again and again. And so we built up almost a pipeline that has a sort of finite level where it's too much, and we may reduce the number of leads, because every day 20 is a lot. This is 400 a month, and in this enterprise play, this is quite intense. So I thought, okay, we could do that, but also if we want to utilize this system more, assuming and realizing that more and more leads that it creates get also closed, we would need to hire more people. And I said, okay, if you run 40 a night or 80 a night, because I mean, right now it's possible, well, we should actually hire 3 or 4 people. And so I realized if we utilize AI as a company, not just in sales, we just talked about it, utilizing it in Compete, then we will probably in most of the activities that we're doing, not only have enough room for those who are not really fully utilized as people, because things is taken over by the AI, we can use them into these new and introduce them into these new processes. But if that works, and you have a healthy company, you have your cash flow, you have your liquidity, you come to the idea of saying, hey, if we increase our sales force and can put so much energy into closing of new business, well, we probably need to also do this on the logistics side and maybe a little bit on the marketing side. And so sooner or later, I realized the company will grow. And there's one interesting thing, I actually looked it up. Utilization from tools is one of the biggest thing in any industry. How is my machine utilization? Do we utilize it to the max? And it originally came from, if I don't, then the ROI, it takes longer. But also, if I utilize it, then I produce more. And if we utilize AI to the max, which none of us, there's no human on earth who ever even thought about it, but probably also not able to utilize it to the max. And we need more people. And this is something I realized in our cases. Now, again, proofs of the pudding. We need to see how this works on each and every solution that we build, and so on and so forth. But AI utilization will be, I believe, a very, very intriguing topic to think through, because then we truly do have that same phenomenon that we had with other new tool introductions or new technologies. It's not only that we don't have to get people on the street. It's actually we need more to do what we want to do. And I'd be honest, I mean, I was fearful in the very beginning when we started that we will need to see how this works out. Then I said, okay, people who will use AI will replace those who don't. Now we can say, okay, AI is not replacing jobs, but the people who use it will replace those who don't. Now we push it back to people, but that is, I mean, on a social thought, that's still a bad answer, because if there are tens of thousands of people who don't use it and be on the street, that wouldn't be good for a society. But if we realize utilization of AI is actually a mechanism not to save jobs, but actually, because saving jobs has never worked, but actually something that we will see, and then the effect of it will be that we will probably have actually more people. So that we need. So the net of it is, I believe that down the road, people who use it will be in good shape. Who don't will be, I mean, endangered, and therefore we more or less made the decision that we were back and forth between building the BlueCallom Academy to not only train our products and so on and so forth. This is no question. But actually begin to train other people to adapt AI and understand also the risk. I mean, there's still other risks, like, this thing can theoretically do things that we don't want them to do. But that's typically it's either a criminal or political negative act with some bad actors, but that's a different story. But I mean, I believe it will be interesting to see also with other products how utilization will actually drive even at least the jobs that we theoretically lost, that we don't lose them, but actually drive even additional jobs, new jobs, or just utilize AI. I mean, like we all utilize computers, we utilize machines, and so on and so forth. Okay, this is just from my side, kind of a final word. And also thank you very much for coming. I think it was great, and